Well, hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I tried to set this up in advance and it didn't work. So hopefully you are jumping over to this live. I'm going to work out my technology kinks later. But today we are talking about resiliency in your kids, how to build their self confidence so that they feel great about who they are. And so that as they grow up in the world, they are willing to take risks. They are willing to do hard things, and they have the capacity for a happy life, because true joy and true happiness comes from doing hard things and succeeding, not everything just always being easy. So, I wanted to talk about, how do you do this? How do you help them build their self confidence? I'm going to give you 3 tips today. And then if you have questions, let me know in the comments, because I want to make sure that you take these tools and put them in place. In case we haven't met before, I'm Dr. Marcy. I'm a parenting expert and coach, and I love answering your questions. So let's get into it. How do you help your kids be amazing and resilient and strong? Well, the very first thing is to separate their actions from who they are. So often, our kids will do something and we label that as who they are, but it's not. It's just what they did. So, an example from my childhood is that I was a really messy kid. I dropped everything. If I ate a meal, I wore half of it. You could see it. You knew what was happening in my dining experience because it was all over my face, my clothes everywhere. And my parents would call me a schmutz. They would say, "You're such a schmutz," which is Yiddish for a mess. And I, in my 20s, all of a sudden realized, like, that's not who I am. I don't have to do that. I can do this differently. To this day, in a very endearing way, my dad will still call me his schmutz, because that's kind of how he pictures me, that little kid who just made a mess everywhere. I'm okay with that. It didn't hurt my self esteem. It didn't make me feel horrible about myself. But some of the things that we tell our kids who they are, "You are a schmutz," makes me believe that I am just a mess, and I'm not. So sometimes this happens with bigger behavior. So maybe you say to your kids, "You're so lazy." Or maybe if your kid has been lying or deceiving in certain ways, you tell them, "You are a liar." When we tell them, "You are this," it starts building their identity. It starts helping them see that this is who I am. And we can use those words for good or for damage. So when you say to your kid, "You are a liar," it makes it more likely that they're going to keep exhibiting that behavior, because they're like, "Well, this is who I am, so this is what I do." Right? Like in my 20s, I had to take a step back and go, "Oh, wait, I am not a schmutz. I can be schmutzy. To this day, I can be schmutzy. I can make a mess all the time. And I'm okay with that. But it's not who I am. It's not my identity." So, separating who your kids are from what they are doing is the first step in helping build a really strong, resilient kid who has good self esteem. What that means is that when they are doing something that's not super great, because they're going to do things that are not super great, you use that as an action. We're going to talk about what you are doing, why it's not okay, and how to do it differently in the future. See that last piece, that how to do it differently in the future? That's your teaching process for them. That's helping them learn to do it differently in the future, as opposed to punishing them and assuming they know. On the other side of that, who they are, when they do amazing, great, kind, awesome things, those you're going to build their identity around. Wow, I really see how kind you're being. You are so kind. When you see them doing something that requires patience or attention to detail, or they demonstrate intelligence, wow, you really are so smart. You are clever. You are a hard worker. You want to separate what they're doing from who they are, and label the who they are as things that are awesome and great and that you want them to be. And the what they are doing, you can talk about on either side. I see that you are sitting there so patiently. That's awesome. Talk about their actions in that way for sure. But when there are things that aren't super great that you don't want to reinforce them doing over and over and over again, then you talk about those things about what they are doing, not who they are. Because we can all learn how to do better. We can all learn from our mistakes. And let's be clear, we are all going to make mistakes. Okay, so the very first thing in helping raise your kids' self esteem and helping increase that so they can be super resilient, right? Because having good self esteem, be feeling good about yourself makes us resilient. Doing that allows us to then say, cool, I got it. And the first step of that is separating actions and intent and who we are. Intent, action, and who we are. Okay, first thing. Second thing, tell them who they are. Tell them in very specific terms, saying you are. It is really powerful when we say about ourselves, I am, or someone says to you, you are. That language, it kind of perks up everything on our system. We're like, oh, yeah, that's who we are. I am this or that or the other. So make sure that you are building that identity for your kids around things that you really, really believe in them. And I will add some things that you are growing them into. So maybe they are a great big sibling. Maybe they have their moments that they're not so great yet, but they are headed in that direction. They are becoming a great sibling. So you're going to encourage them right now by telling them, you are this. Maybe your kids aren't amazingly patient all the time, but the moments that you see them demonstrating some patience, you're going to say, wow, you are so patient. I noticed how you were waiting while I was getting your snack. I love that. Notice I'm creating that identity piece that you are, fill in the blank of something great you want your kids to be. And then I'm also filling it in with what they did, that action piece that showed me that characteristic. You just tell people all the time, and I love telling people they're amazing. If you've watched any of my other videos, especially my shorts, I love telling people they're amazing. I also, in real life, follow that up with what was amazing about them, what happened that made me think that, because that is where you get the weight behind the compliment. So build their identity. You are patient. You are kind. I saw how you shared with your sibling. I saw how you shared with me. You are such a good turn taker. Yeah, you let me go first this game. It was awesome. Or maybe you're working on being a good loser. You are really good at playing games and celebrating everybody's wins. I love that you are such a team player, even when it's not a team game. All of those things help them say, oh, wait, yeah, I am a really good team player, even when it's a competitive game. Cool. I can do that more because that is who I am. Therefore, I will react accordingly. Does it work every single time? No, but it helps them see who they are and build that piece up. That is the best we can do. It's that guiding and teaching that you're doing in those moments. And then the third tip is get your kids to reflect who they are in these positive spaces. So maybe you want to create a specific time where you talk to them and you say, tell me what's great about you. I am smart because I did really good on that spelling test this week. I am kind. I shared my snacks with a friend. And I am a good sibling because when my little brother was cold, I brought a blanket over for him. Right? Like have them use their own words, look at themselves and say, this is who I am. And when they practice saying, I am really loudly, really boldly, with confidence about what they did, and then following it up with that action step. So they're combining that identity piece with the action piece, who they are and what they did, they're linking them. It is important that we see them as two separate things and that we pull them apart so we can teach our kids about those not great moments. It's also important that we link them back together for the great moments so that kids can see, oh, yeah, I am this and I did this. It's an integrity. We want, our systems crave that type of alignment where we are doing the thing that we believe we are. If we believe we are smart, we will work harder to pass an exam. If we believe we're lazy, we won't care because that's just not who we are. So I want you to think about who you want your kids to be and tell them that with the evidence behind it. There's always good moments that we can highlight, but also make sure they are reflecting for themselves. So that builds up the internal reservoir, that internal reflection, that internal motivation that is so important for them to be able to continue to grow their self-esteem in the moments that are hard, in the moments when we are, as the grown-ups, are not graceful, because you'll have those moments, and in the moments when you're not around. You want them to feel in control of their identity, to feel clear on who that is, and therefore be able to move forward with that possibility of who they are. So when you're not there, they still align with those characteristics that you're building them. So how do you use all of this? What I would encourage you to do is to sit down either by yourself, if you're co-parenting it, do it with the other parent that you're co-parenting with, and write down, what are all the things you want your kids to be when they grow up? What are the amazing identities you want them to have? I think of kind, think of compassionate, I think of resilient, I think of successful, right? I think of hardworking. I think of flexible. I think of dedicated, right? What are all the things? Write them all down. And then pick the top 3, just 3, and start focusing on those for the next month so that you can start seeding this. You are this. You are resilient. You are hardworking. Oh my goodness, you are so patient. What are the 3 things from your whole long list that if your kid put in place right now today would make a huge difference for them and for your whole family? Those are the ones you want to start with. Once, work on that for 2, 3, 4 months, and then go back to the list. Pick a few more. Start weaving those in. Don't do too many at a time because you'll forget and stop doing it. But go slowly, a few at a time, and build them in. And you'll notice, and yes, it will be years from now, that this work will pay off in dividends. So far down the road, your kids will be like, oh yeah, I'm awesome. Here's why. That confidence to be able to voice that, to say what's great about that, not from a bragging place of I'm better than you, right? It's not a competition, but to stand up and say, I'm great and here's why. From that authentic, true place. It's a gift to give your kids. Helping them build a positive identity will lift their self-esteem, will help them be resilient, and will change their future. So go start talking to your kids about what is great about them by saying you are. And between now and then, I want you to remember that you are amazing because you are a parent or someone who is around kids who have being thoughtful, who has taken the time to learn how to do it better. That is always the sign of someone who is doing good work in the world to make those around them better people. So share this video with another grown-up who needs to hear this message, who needs to start thinking about the identity of their kids. So share this with a friend. Also like this video and subscribe to my channel because that helps make sure that you hear more things that I'm sharing, but it also helps make sure the message gets out to more and more adults that need to hear how to be wonderful, amazing, kind guides for our kids. And if you have questions, please let me know. My favorite thing to do on these Wednesday Wisdom calls is to answer your questions. So either put it in the DM, put it in the chat below, or message me directly. You can link to my website right above. So subscribe, reach out with questions, and I will see you next week. And remember, small steps lead to big changes. Go take some small steps today.